When Markus Persson sold Minecraft for $2.5 billion, it became one of the richest game developers in history. But within months, the Markus that everyone knew had disappeared. He was posting racist tweets, was abandoned by his community, and Microsoft completely removed his name from the game. Now, most stories only focus on this drama, but we need to dig deeper, way before Minecraft, to understand how the same demons that made him a hero drove him to complete self-destruction. In 1979, a nurse and railroad worker in Stockholm had a child named Markus before moving to Edsbyn, a tiny Swedish town surrounded by forests. Growing up, Markus loved two things. First, spending entire days exploring the woods with friends, mapping territories, and discovering hidden clearings. And second, coming home to build detailed Lego structures. Over years, his parents watched their son explore the real world whilst expanding his mind. They had no idea these two obsessions, wandering through nature and building with blocks, were creating the blueprint for the world's biggest game. But when Markus turned 7, they moved back to Stockholm, and this world crumbled. His parents' marriage collapsed as his father's mental health spiraled. Depression, alcoholism, and prescription drug abuse consumed him, and he ended up in jail for robberies. The divorce split the family. Markus and his sister lived with their mother, while the father disappeared to a countryside cabin. And money became so tight, every month they would struggle to buy food. The boy who had once had endless forests to explore was now trapped in a cramped apartment with a struggling single mum. His stable, creative childhood had been replaced by chaos and fear. But during a rare visit, his father brought something that would change everything.
My dad bought a Commodore 128, and that was the first computer I ever played with. And it kind of quickly became my computer because I kind of took it over.
You see, despite his struggles, Markus' father was a tech enthusiast, and for Markus, this computer opened up a portal to another world. He became so obsessed, he would fake illnesses just to skip school and spend entire days programming, while other kids his age made friends. His father taught him the basics.
And we were subscribing to this magazine, and it had the code listings in it. So me and my sister spent some time just typing that in, and that's kind of how we got started with programming.
But Markus quickly outgrew this. By age 8, he was coding his own games. By high school, he'd become a loner, spending every moment programming. He even reverse engineered the Doom engine. Like, his skills again, pretty serious. So while real life stayed chaotic, Markus had found his refuge. With a screen and keyboard, he could build perfect worlds where everything made sense. Unlike people, computers never let him down. And when life got overwhelming, he could always escape. By the early 2000s, 21-year-old Markus had turned his coding skills into a steady web designer job. Finally, he could help his struggling family financially. But corporate life slowly crushed his creativity. Instead of building games, he now spent days creating boring websites and basic apps for other businesses. Even worse, his boss, who was paranoid of competition, banned employees from working on any personal projects. So day after day, Markus wrote code that meant nothing to him while counting down the hours. His escape had become its own prison. But Markus did what he had always done when trapped. He found another exit. He landed a job at Midas Player, the company that would later become king and create Candy Crush. There, for 4.5 years, he honed his skills, creating over 30 Flash games and learning how to quickly finish projects. But even though this job was better, he was still building other people's ideas. So, he switched jobs again, taking a web developer position at J-Album, working under Carl Manor. But this was just meant to be temporary. And the stable day job would give him the security and time to work on his own projects. For one project, he started building a game called Rubydung, but soon discovered another simple block-digging game called Infiniminer. In it, he saw the spark of a much bigger idea. So he spent a week coding a prototype, called it Cave Game, and posted it on the TIG Source gaming forum. His plan was humble: create a small game, sell it early, and hopefully fund the next one. But within hours, people were downloading his experiment. And within months, thousands were playing his game. The demand was unlike anything he had ever seen before. He'd created something massive, but had no idea just how dangerous this success would become. At first, being Minecraft's creator felt incredible. Markus made millions, fans loved him, and as the game's popularity began to increase, it became impossible for one person to manage everything. Markus knew he needed to build a real company, so he brought in his trusted friend Jakob Porser as co-founder to work on new games, while going back and hiring Carl Manor as CEO to handle the business side. Together, they founded Mojang. You see, Markus thought that this would solve his problems. He could stay in the background just coding games while others handled the business. But as Minecraft exploded worldwide, something terrifying happened. The barrier between his online life and his real life began to crumble.
Yeah, I think the first time I got recognized in public was kind of scary, because I realized like people knew who I was online, but there's always been a slight barrier between online and reality, and that's kind of slowly mixed since then. I mean, it's very cool when I go and do stuff like this. There's lots of people who know who I am, and it's a bit strange, to be honest.
The world now knew Markus as Notch, the celebrity game developer everyone had opinions about, but this only brought constant new pressures, as he was now being held responsible for decisions he wasn't even making. And this led Markus to a deep realization about his relationship with the public. You see, now every decision affects millions of people, and the weight of that responsibility was crushing. The stress began draining all joy from the very thing he'd once loved. Just like back in that cubicle at his first job.
I didn't want to work on the project anymore, because I wanted to just write prototypes or new games and stuff. That's the stuff I actually get happy from doing. And I felt like still like I needed to be responsible for it, because I was still like the main owner of the company, and it was me who developed the game, and people were like looking up to me.
And by late 2011, he was drowning. But Markus had a radical solution. On December 1st, just 2 weeks before Minecraft's official 1.0 release, he stepped back from his role and handed all creative control to his core developer, Jens Bergenstein. Finally, for a moment, it seemed like he could escape. But the problem was a lot deeper than he expected. In the eyes of the public, he was still the creator, still the man in charge. Stepping back hadn't freed him from the Notch prison, but things were only about to get worse. On December 14th, 2011, less than 2 weeks after stepping away from Minecraft, tragedy struck. His father, the man who had brought home that first computer and taught him to code, took his own life. The same demons that tore apart Markus's childhood had claimed his father. He was shattered, his previous marriage collapsed, and the weight of global fame combined with the grieving just pushed him into further self-isolation. But still, nothing changed. In fact, 2.5 years after stepping back, fans still blamed him for everything. And the final straw came in June 2014, when a major controversy erupted online. Mojang decided to enforce a rule that always existed in Minecraft's terms of service. Servers couldn't sell in-game advantages for real money. The rule had always been there, but when they started to actually enforce it, server owners who'd been making tons of money from these pay-to-win schemes were furious. They rallied their communities, and the wave of backlash was aimed directly at Markus, even though he wasn't working on the game anymore.
This big thing happened with the ULA incident. People still got very upset with like me personally, even though I wasn't even working on it anymore. I just figured like, I don't know if I want to put up with this anymore.
So shortly after, feeling sick and frustrated, he opened Twitter and posted what seemed like a joke. He expected some laughs, but instead, he had triggered the biggest game acquisition in history. Within hours, his phone rang non-stop. There were execs from Microsoft, EA, Activision, and none of them were joking. But Microsoft was the most aggressive. Under a new CEO, they saw Minecraft as the path to a younger audience. Suddenly, the creation that trapped Markus was offering the ultimate escape. So, negotiations moved fast. Microsoft wasn't just offering money. Now they were offering freedom from the responsibility, the hate, the crushing weight of the Notch persona. Markus could just be himself again. And finally, on September 15th, 2014, Microsoft announced they would buy Mojang for $2.5 billion. And in his farewell post, Markus explained his decision to the world. He thought he had found the perfect escape, but sometimes getting exactly what you want becomes its own trap. Now with $1.8 billion in his account, Markus thought he had finally won. He had zero responsibilities and infinite possibilities. He could do anything, buy anything, be anything. In December 2014, he bought a $70 million Beverly Hills mansion, outbidding Beyonce and Jay-Z for the property. He filled his days with expensive parties, famous friends, and luxury cars. He had achieved what he had chased since childhood, complete escape from all his problems. But in August 2015, less than a year later, he would post multiple tweets that shocked everyone. The first read, hanging out in Ibiza with a bunch of friends and partying with famous people, able to do whatever I want, and I've never felt more isolated. As well as, the problem with getting everything is you run out of reasons to keep trying, and human interaction becomes impossible due to the imbalance. You see, the man who thought money would buy freedom had built the most expensive prison of all. For his entire life, he had been driven by the need to escape something. His chaotic childhood, the boring jobs, his suffocating fame. But now there was nowhere left to run. He had sold Minecraft specifically so he could return to the one thing that truly made him happy.
I didn't want to work on the project anymore, because I wanted to just write prototypes or new games and stuff. That's the stuff I actually get happy from doing.
But nothing stuck. So Markus decided to co-found a new studio, and he called it Rubber Brain, and spent roughly $60 million on game ideas. But these went absolutely nowhere. Every project just felt hollow. Money couldn't buy back what he had lost when he sold his life's work, a sense of purpose. Now, without challenges, without meaning, his genius mind began to spiral. And around 2017, something disturbing emerged. Markus started using Twitter to post increasingly controversial and toxic content that shocked his longtime fans. He made statements about feminism being a social disease, supported conspiracy theories like QAnon, and shared extremely racist and transphobic posts. And rightly so, the backlash grew so intense that by 2019, Microsoft took drastic action. They publicly stated his views didn't reflect their company, quietly removed his name from Minecraft's splash screens, and excluded him from the game's 10th anniversary celebration. Markus had become so toxic that he was systematically erased from his own creation. Then in August 2020, he apologized, deactivated his account, and disappeared completely. For nearly 4 years, he remained hidden. Then in 2024, he quietly returned, relaunching a studio and started working on new games. But in January 2025, he posted a poll asking if he should make a spiritual successor to Minecraft. When over 80% said yes, he announced that he was basically making Minecraft 2. But he would only reverse course 6 days later, calling the idea a sad nostalgia dump. Even in his comeback, he couldn't escape Minecraft's shadow. Some may say he's still trapped, perhaps terrified of the impossible expectations that come with being the hero who made the world's biggest game and becoming its villain. But the only question now is which role will he play next?